I don't moonlight as a rapper. My jersey up too high in the rafters. I got a front team, new life and a tractor. Soon sipping that moonshine and I'm plastered.
All right, everyone. Welcome back. Another episode of the Moonlighters Club. It was a lot getting this going, but we got it going. Everyone,
man, you're a beast.
Yeah, man. Thank you. I appreciate it. You know what? I'll let everyone introduce themselves. So if you want to just go ahead, if you have a way of introducing yourself or just saying your name, it's up to you.
All right. I never know how the hell to introduce myself. But my name is Mark Brehaut. I'm the co-founder of a dating app in Boston called Icebrkr. We'll get into that, and yeah, that's
nice.
That's
so I met Mark at an event. We were at a WeWork, and I just saw the app. I liked the app. It was cool, and then I just love the concept of it. I don't know. I just love creators in general. So we'll just get into it. Where are you from?
Well, I'm a Jersey boy.
Okay.
So so I born and raised in Jersey. So like Central Jersey, like right in the sweet spot in between the beautiful green areas of Princeton, where the university is, and the not beautiful green areas of Trenton. So right in the middle of that, and like a small suburb. So spent most of my life sort of like within like a 3-hour radius of there, like through going to. I went to Rutgers University for undergrad and grad school, and then I'm like a beach bum, so I moved down to the Jersey Shore, not like the show, and so recently I moved to Boston like a few months ago for Icebrkr.
Nice. So where'd you go? Wait, did you say where'd you go to school?
Rutgers.
You did go to Rutgers.
Yeah.
Okay. What'd you major in?
Communication. So for undergrad, for like basically the first like 3.5 years of college, I was like, I don't know what the fuck I want to do. And then I get to like my last semester, and I was like, I took a course on relationships. So like interpersonal relationships.
Okay.
And I found myself starting to like do the extra reading for the first time, where I was like, I would go home because I was like a system worker for like, I could be like, all right, I could try to like get B's. I was really good at getting B's, and I would never do like the extra reading or anything. And I started to be like, oh, this is actually interesting. And I'm like going to office hours, and I'm like, what's going on? You're actually like into school now. What's going on? And so I talked to my professor, who eventually became my grad school advisor, where she recommended I go to grad school. So and I went to grad school focusing on basically interpersonal communication, which was like relationship communication and psychology. So I was like, I basically, was studying how people, like my focus was like how people start relationships and how people end relationships. So I was on an academic track. And then from there, I kind of didn't want to do academia. And so then I wanted to do more like relationship therapy.
Ah,
so yeah, okay. So that not intentionally becomes like circuitous to like where I am now, but yeah, so like I was like fully intended to become like a relationship therapist, counselor, and I wound up not doing that. But yeah.
So when you left, when did you know you didn't want to do that? Was it?
Yeah. So that was, So I sat with my advisor, the same advisor from 2 years earlier, who was like, you should probably go to grad school. And so I was actually looking at PhD schools, and I was applying to schools all over the country. And I remember I was like sitting in her office one day, and she just like cut it to me straight. She was like, because I was asking her advice on like what, all right, do you know people who do relationship therapy and counseling? And she's like, yeah, it's not like what you think.
Yeah.
And she's like, I'm sure you're like really good at, giving your friends advice on like their relationships. And I'm like, yeah, totally. Like, I'm just like, the man, totally. Thinking I'm like hot shit. Yeah. But, and she's like, yeah, real life's not like that. And like, if you take this as a profession, like one, nobody goes to like a relationship counselor if they're healthy.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so so can you deal with hearing people's shit all day? And then if you fix them or if you help them, you know, there's no like thank you, like big parade for you, right? Because right now you see like your friends that you help, and then afterwards you get to see their happy relationships. And I was like, oh, I never really thought about that. So she's like, since you're seeing problems all day, are you then the type of person that can go home to your partner or spouse or whatever and not bring that shit home with you?
Right.
And that fucked me up. Cause I was like, I was like, yeah, I can do that. And like, I had like this like sort of like existential breakdown where I was like, no, I can't do that. Like, I am the person that like kind of feels like really, really strongly.
Yeah.
And so that was like, so to answer your original question about like when that happened like 3 weeks before I graduated. And I was about to go into PhD school. So I was just like, you're just telling me this shit now. Yeah. So, I mean, it was like, you know, it was lighthearted at the time, but yeah, it was, So I came out of grad school not knowing what the hell I was going to do.
So then why do you even pivot at that point? Because you've already gone to school for a while. You don't think you want to do this. Is it a degree that you could potentially...
No.
Yeah. See, that's the thing. Like, I'm trying to figure out, like, can you move this?
No. I mean, to be honest, like, I got I got out of school and I was like, so I graduated. I was like, I did like a winter to a winter. So it was like, so I didn't graduate. Like, I didn't come out in May. So I came out. It was like, you know, I graduated in like December. And I was like, and I saw like this community college that I actually originally went to before I went to Rutgers, and I was like, maybe I'll just teach some courses.
Okay.
And I was like, I've never taught a second in my life, and so I was like, but I need something to do. So I just emailed. I saw that they had like some courses open in January. It was like December like 15th.
Yeah.
And I was like, hey, like, I see you're looking for someone to teach like this communication classes. Like, I can do that. Like, I've taught courses before, completely bullshitted. So I came in there just out of desperation and out of, I guess, like interview well. Like after like I just interviewed once. She's like, yeah, get in there. We need someone.
I think it's funny how not everyone, but I feel like a lot of people I know, when you're in the field and you're working in whatever profession you're working, we all feel like we could just teach at some point. Like all of us are like, you know what, if business don't work, I'll come back to Suffolk. I'm talking to teachers about this. Like, I'll just be here. I'll do a couple classes. I see what you do. It's not the great place. So wait, what's it actually like though? Because I feel like in my head, teaching is like lecturing and people are listening. Now teaching, it's actually hard.
Yeah, it's a really hard job. Like, it's not like, it's like, I definitely didn't have, I just did it out of like survival. Like I was just like, I need a job. Yeah. And like, I also don't want to do just a regular job. I thought about, cause before the track where I wanted to be a therapist, basically, I was on like a track for academia.
Okay.
So like I wanted to do like full research and teach anyway. So that was always like in the back of my mind. That didn't just like come out of nowhere. And so I was like, all right, well, let me try this out and see like if I want to eventually teach at a university level, like as like a full-time professor. Maybe I do want to go back to school. And so I got in there. There's no like, you know, like I talked to like I have a bunch of friends I grew up with who came like, you know, high school teachers and whatnot. And like when you become like a high school teacher, you go to school for teaching. They you know, you do like student teaching and you learn all that shit. When you're like a college professor, there's no student teaching. You just like go right from like learning to like getting in front of a classroom. And it's just like So that particular college had a campus like in basically like the suburbs of New Jersey, which is like beautiful green area. And then they had another campus like in the heart of Trenton, New Jersey. Okay. And they're like, basically no one wants to teach on that campus. And I was just like, well, I mean, I'll teach there. And so I walk in the first day, I'm probably 26 years old, maybe, or 25, 26, I forget. But anyway, I just got into it, and I was just like, I just learned as I was going along.
Yeah.
Like there are just certain things you pick up over time where it's like, I'm basically your age. And so like, oh yeah, I could be cool, Professor Mark, just call me Mark or whatever. There becomes a problems there where it's like, oh wait, hold on. Now I'm like their friend. And now, so you do learn over time, but I wound up teaching for like about 4 years. Like, so during that time, like I taught at that college. I wound up like teaching at both campuses, and then also I turned that into like teaching at a prison.
Wow.
So so I taught at like a maximum security prison in New Jersey because one of my just like mentors there told me like, I think you have a personality to like go in there and teach. And I was like, fuck you talking about? And he was just like, no, I think you can do it. And turns out he was right. Like I went in there and I was like, again, there's no training, and like teaching in a prison is not like, there's no like guard or anything in the room. There's not like, handcuffed or anything. It's just like a classroom in this like fucking cement wall building. And it's such a stark contrast from like standing in front of students and standing in front of, what we call them students really, but like inmates. And, it's a really interesting experience. Like I go to like there is where you learn like how much, like I always call that like unconditional learning with them. It's like I would go into a normal college classroom and see like these like privileged kids, not to sound like an asshole, because I was a privileged kid too. I'm a fucking white guy born on third base, right? And so like, but like, I would ask a question, and like out of 30 people, maybe like 3 people raise their hand. Like in a prison, like if I ask a question out of 30 people, maybe 3 people don't raise their hand.
Yeah.
And so like a lot of them aren't getting out either.
Yeah.
So they're just doing it just to do it.
Yeah.
So like the value of the education, like that stuff like really impacted me. And like that really like impacted how like I viewed education and viewed obviously like, the, prison system and all that stuff. But it changed how I learn like personally. So like that was like a really valuable experience for me. But yeah, but during that time, while I was teaching, I also like, as when you have like an adjunct professor schedule, you basically have a college student schedule. So like I don't have like a full-time job.
Yeah. So
I'm spending like most of my off hours like on YouTube, like learning the code.
Okay.
Yeah. And so like that, I didn't go to school for like programming or design or anything. It was one of those things where like a couple buddies of mine wanted to start a blog, and I was like, I got the hours, I'll do it. And so I wanted to move this button here and this button there. And that turned into just like me spending 20, 30 hours a week, like, on like Code Academy and YouTube and, eventually Udemy, and like learning, going from like, basic HTML to like now like Swift. So like, and so like that mentality, so going back to that, like that second semester, senior year of college, where like 3.5 years, or basically like, 21 years before that, where I was like, I don't need education, where that sort of like seed in me of like really wanting to learn and really like that started to grow then. And then from there, like years later, that's where I was like, I like had this incredible discipline to just like really like sit for hours and hours and hours and like lock myself in a room and start like learning. And not because it's like I want to become this, programmer or whatever. It was more because like I just really enjoyed it.
Yeah.
And whatever comes from it comes from it. And so that basically so that's basically how I kind of like equip myself with like certain skills that I've been able to like kind of adapt to today.
Nice. So yeah, that's interesting. I kind of feel like there's something there with seeing people who just want to learn for the sake of learning, and then here you are wanting to learn literally for the sake of learning.
Yeah.
Just playing around with coding. How long do you think it took you before you thought you became pretty like adequate and good at it?
Yeah. I mean, I probably still don't think I'm good at it. But I would say like it was more like a mental thing, like sort of like I start, so as I'm teaching, I was probably like taking courses for a while, or not even courses, just videos and shit, and like just like playing around, messing with stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, there's my phone. So playing around, like messing with stuff. And probably after like a year, I was like, all right, I can, make a website, and I felt like pretty decent about that. And so I was like, let me see if I can like find a client, like find a project. So I just started on like Craigslist, and I found like the first dude I like messaged where he was like, oh, I need something. I messaged him. I was like, yeah, I can do it, and I'll charge you basically nothing. So I didn't know what to charge people had. And so that started it. So that gave me like the confidence to be like, okay, I can actually do this. And so while I was teaching, I turned that into like a little freelance business where I was building just like little like, websites for small businesses, and even some for my friends. And I would use them as like, obviously for a little bit of income, but also to like learn, like, okay, so this project has me learning PHP, so let me like jump into that. Not that that's even like relevant anymore, but like that's how I've always like viewed like new projects. And so like I I turned that into like as I was like teaching for a few years, I was like, okay, this is something I'm actually passionate about.
Yeah.
And that was something I was always like really, from a young age, that was something I was always like really determined, was like, I was just like, I don't care about money, and I want to like be happy or whatever. And like, that's, great. But it's just like, at the heart of it, it was like, I do still feel that way. I obviously care about money.
Right.
But I mean, I view money as like a metric for success.
Yeah.
But as far as like where I was, like, as I was teaching, I was like, I'm going to need to like find like a real job doing this.
Yeah.
At whether it's an agency or in-house or something, like being like a front-end web developer or whatever, design or whatever I can do. And so I wound up like quitting teaching before I found a job, because I knew that was always a crutch for me. And so after I did that, it took me a couple months, and then I found a job in an agency, and that's where I took for like also in Jersey, where I would just kind of got thrown in to like eventually like a senior designer role, and also a senior front end developer role, and that's where I really start to like get really comfortable, because I'm not the only guy. Now I'm working with other developers and designers. And now I'm getting the feedback to be like, oh yeah, dude, you're pretty good at this.
Nice.
And so I think it took a few years. Yeah.
Good. So while now you're building your skill up, at what point do you say, I want to try an app?
So as I was working there, this was a few years ago, probably like 2014, 2015. Yeah, about that. I graduated from grad school like December 2011. And in grad school, I met my current co-founder, Kevin.
Okay.
And how we met was, and he's from this area. And so how we met was like, he stood up during orientation one time, and I hear like his Boston accent. He's just like, I'm Kevin, I study online dating, and I just like, I listen to this dude. I'm like, oh shit, like this is the guy I want to meet. Like he seems cool.
Yeah.
And so we were like two guys in like a super female dominated program, we're like, we're studying relationships. Like there's no other dudes that were doing it.
Yeah.
And we're like dudes, like, that makes sense.
Yeah. You're now drinking wine with turtlenecks on.
Yeah. And so we definitely attracted to each other, like, and it was just natural. And like, so we became like pretty close friends, like in our program. And then,
I still think that's funny. You'd assume the opposite. You see two like guys chilling.
Yeah.
And you think they'd want to be around all the women in the course. Nah, we're just gonna hang out.
Yeah.
Nah, we're just gonna.
Oh my God, yeah, dude, yeah, that was always interesting talking to some of the girls in our program, just being like. I won't get down that road.
I'm sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, that's good. That's there's some stories there. But anyway, so anyway, we became pretty close.
Okay.
And after I graduated, I just did I just went and did my thing like I just talked about. And he was like one of like his advisor was like, and this was like 2011. This is like pre-Tinder. This is like during online dating stigma. Like you don't like, this is when like people would like meet their girlfriend on online date on like Match or something like that. And then someone would be like, oh, where'd you meet your girlfriend? Be like, at a bar, no one would like say that. So, oh yeah, we met on online dating. People like, that's fucking weird. And so like they're like one of like his advisor was like a consultant for Match.com at the time. And she was like, published a lot of studies on online dating. And so he like worked under her. And so for a few years, and then after that, after grad school, he became an actual online dating coach.
Okay.
So he, where he worked for this company that was based in New York, but they're in Boston too, where essentially he would help people run their online dating lives.
Okay.
So everything from like profile writing to like picking your photos to like finding people to also ghostwriting matches and setting up dates. And this industry, like their clients would pay up to $4,000 per month at 4-month contracts. Oof. So their clients are dropping $16K for someone to help them find a match.
Okay.
And which is ridiculous and absurd.
Money, yeah.
There's no way I would ever pay that much money, but you can imagine like the clientele. And so he has like a lot of stories. But so anyway, so him and I kind of lost touch for a while. We, every once in a while we'd like, message each other. And so he hits me up around like 2015. And he's been doing this for a few years, and I've been doing my thing for a few years. This is when I'm at that agency. And he's like, he knew I was like, my background in relationships, and he knew my background and he knew I was actively online dating. And so he would just call me. He's like, hey, I got this idea for this app. I don't know how to like, it's basically like, how do we get like a dating coach, this advice, basically how do we scale like this 4K per month model into like a dating app and like build that into a dating app. And so him and I, like, we spent like hours and hours on the phone, like each day on my commute home from work, where I had like an hour commute, and we're just talking about this every day, about different ideas about, for an app. And so that turned into like a prototype that we eventually built for Icebrkr, where we were like, all right, let's figure out how to give people advice while they date. And so they were like, initially they were like little tool tips that people can get as they're interacting, and then tested it on like, we did like a prototype, we tested it, and it was okay, but I thought we needed some more. So I don't know if you want me to get into that. Or...
So what is Icebrkr? The pitch or description that someone could be like, oh, okay, that makes sense.
Yeah. So Icebrkr is focused on people who are not necessarily like looking to get married tomorrow, although it is for them, but it's like we kind of like, we look at like dating intentionality as on a scale, right? And so like that scale is like, goes from like, I want to get married to like, I just want to have fun tonight. Right. And so like, basically like this like seriousness scale. And so like on this side of the scale, there's like the eHarmonies and the matches, and you start to slide down that scale, and you're like, all right, here's Hinge, here's Coffee Meets Bagel. And then you slide all the way down to this side of the scale. It's just like Tinder, Bumble. Like those are like, I just want to have fun. I want to meet someone. And it's like, they do what they do very well, right? And so we do not try to like mess with that, right? And so what we are focused on are people who are like more in like the Hinge area, who want to find a relationship but don't want to use like the matches or the eHarmonies or spend a shit ton of money trying to get on there. So we're focused on people who want to either like casually date, who are maybe like opening up to finding a relationship. Like maybe your friends are starting to get married and you're like, all right, maybe I should kind of start to take things seriously. Maybe I should graduate from Tinder and go something a little bit more serious. So like we are like a product offering for them. And now like how we differentiate is so Kevin, the dating coach, we've built Kevin into the app.
Okay.
So in a chatbot form. So we have this chatbot called named Hootie. He's a little blue owl. And so he walks you through like building your profile. So it'll ask you questions. So the whole interface is through essentially text message. And so it'll ask you questions like, what are you on here for? Like hookups, casual dating, serious relationship. If you actually select hookups, we actually tell you like, yeah, sorry, use something else. Like this isn't for you. Yeah. And then, and so it helps you like, pick your photos, and it tells you exactly what photos you should have: a headshot, a full body shot, a personality shot, and a storytelling photo. And tells you like what those types of photos are, what you should include in there. Then it helps, build your actual bio. So it gives you advice on like what to write in your bio or how to write it. Not like we're not telling you what to write. We're telling you like how to best express yourself. Yeah. And then at the end of that onboarding process, it takes about like 10 minutes. What also differentiates us is, and we're getting feedback from current like Icebreaker members now, is like, this is something that people really like, is you submit your profile. So like on Tinder, you just put a few photos and you're like good to go to start swiping. For us, for Icebreaker, is like we actually curate every profile on the app. So when you submit it, now like we have dating coaches, not just Kevin, we have like a couple other dating coaches that like personally review every single profile that goes through. And so we look at every profile, and we either approve you or we'll give you a message back. We'll maybe like reject you, but not like it's not like a rejection where it's just like like, nah, you can't use this app. It's more like most like rejections happen from like they have like a group photo or their bio has like a cliche like, oh, I like travel. It's just like, everything in the app, what we're trying to do, everything in your profile should cultivate conversations and communication. So if you say you like travel, everyone likes to travel, right? Yeah. So our coach would say, so on your bio that you would submit, like, so maybe Kevin's reviewing it, he would say like, all right, that's great, you like travel, but like, why don't you be a little bit more specific? Have you been somewhere recently? And tell us about that. Or do you want to really go somewhere? So now if you change that question, if you change that response to say like, I like travel, to like, love traveling. Like last year I went to China. Like I experienced the Great Wall of China for the first time. It was like absolutely breathtaking. Now, if you see that on someone's dating profile, if you say, I like travel versus like that description, like which description is going to start a conversation better? Right. The second conversation. Yeah. And so like everything we're doing is trying to like basically like encourage more communication. Nice. Because a lot of the communication on dating apps nowadays are just like, hey, what's up? How was your weekend? Hey there. Like, and they don't really like lead to anything. For the most part, most conversations don't really lead anywhere. Right. And so we're trying to make sure like that, like there actually is substantial conversations, because a lot of people match with people that could be good for them. But like you could, like you have like someone like eHarmony, right? And I'm not like shitting on eHarmony. I think like there is value to them, but like where they're like, you have this 96% match, right? Like this personality is so great for, all right, that could be true, right? But like if like the conversation, like that you like message that person and you just say, hey, what's up? How was your week? And the conversation doesn't go anywhere. Like, it doesn't matter how good of a match you are, like you're not going to see them in person. So what we're trying to do is like, all right, how do we get you to like have a good conversation that leads to you seeing them in person and having like, a good date and like eventually hopefully leading to a relationship. So we review every profile, and then once we have that back and forth, because we give you advice back, change your photo, this, that, and the other thing, then you can resubmit it. Then we approve you.
Yeah.
And then you get one match per day. So we also like limit that like infinite swiping type of thing, paradox of choice type
What's been the most rewarding story or use that you've had so far?
Well, we're still early, we just launched a few months ago. It's not really like the use case, like it's what's interesting. Like my skill, like I haven't really developed too much of the app. I poke around and, add a few features, but like I save that for the smarter people than me. But where my strength has been is like design, like from a UI perspective, but also from like a user experience perspective. So like, from a user experience perspective, like what I really, really love doing is like talking to our members and like actually like getting into the weeds and like, why are you on Icebrkr? Like what, you've obviously used other apps before, like what's driving you here? And like, I talk to members that are like 25 and I talk to members that are like 65. Right. And it's very interesting to hear like what's driven them and like what they're unsatisfied with, like with other, like just because it's not just like, like a project management app, like where this button should go or whatever. Like this is like going back to like my original goal of like career goal of like wanting to be like a relationship therapist. This feels like relationship therapy. Like when I'm talking to you, to members, like they're just like, it always gets to like, like, well, now I'm divorced and like, this is how I feel and this is what I went through and whatever. And so the most rewarding part is hearing people hearing like actually, this is what life's about. Like, I don't want to sound like some fucking corny dude. But
no, do it.
But this is what life's about. Like in terms of like, everyone's trying to find like a partnership or, some meaningful relationships, just that. It doesn't need to be a marriage or anything, just a meaningful relationship. And so like when you hear people's backgrounds and their stories of like, the 65-year-old divorced woman who has like, been, had a great relationship for years, but then something happened and it ended. And now she's like trying to pick up the pieces again. And like hearing like that story of like where she's coming from to where she ultimately wants to be, like, that's the stuff that moves me. And that's the stuff is like, because when you're like behind like, a text editor where you're like, like dumping in code, or you're behind like, an Adobe XD file when you're like throwing in like, designing buttons and shit. Like, it's good to like remind yourself of being like, who's on the other end of this, right? Who is, like, why are you ultimately doing this? And like, that's what's really cool to see, like hear those stories. And it does remind you of like, okay, this is the stuff, like features are cool, but like, this is the stuff that ultimately the features are being built for.
You're doing what you were supposed to be doing the whole time.
Yeah.
Your guidance, they were there. This is it.
It's weird how it turned out. This was not deliberate.
This is what you're doing. So if that's the case, you don't come off as your typical startup person. You actually have a soul and a heart. What's a good goal for this? Is this your thing? This sounds like this is your thing. You know what I mean? Is there a goal to grow this so this is kind of like this thing you can walk into on a normal basis and work? Like, is it to sell this and do something else? What if you could have it your way? How could you see this?
I mean, so all right, so there's a couple things, but I do ultimately want to like, right now we're based in Boston. I do ultimately want to grow it like, nationwide.
Yeah.
And so like having a dating app, like you can't start, it's not like we can be like, all right, we're live in LA or whatever. It's just like, cause you only have a certain amount of like a marketing budget. So you have to compress yourself to a geographic area. So like ideally in the near term, it's like, let's get people who want to find relationships on the app in Boston. expand that to the next city, and then, try to scale. But like ultimately where I want to go long term is like, I see this, I don't want this to just be a dating app. Like we have like long-term visions for this, is like, there's some of this like I probably can't talk about, but there's some of this that I can talk about. But ultimately, like where I want to go with it, or where we want to go with it, not just me or my partner, but my whole team, is like make this more into like a relationship app.
Yeah.
So this is where that therapy angle really comes in, because like, I went to school for that, but also like Kevin as like a dating coach, like same thing. Like he was like basically like a relationship therapist, like in real time, like with his former clients, right? Like he's talking to them. They're, really like opening up to them. So we think like anyone can need like relationship therapy. And so what we ultimately want to do is like make this into a relationship app where like you're not just trying to find a match. It's like, all right, now I'm with like my boyfriend or girlfriend, or I'm with my like husband or wife, and like my wife is like really going through something right now. Like I don't know how to talk to her, and like so we want to actually like scale like dating coaches like nationwide, where you can have like an on-demand like human dating coach that you can talk to, or relationship therapist that you can talk to like on demand. And ultimately like help grow that relationship. Yeah. And so that's where we really, there's obviously like a lot more there. Yeah. But that's like our long-term vision. But yeah, so that's where we ultimately like want to see the product go in the long term, but we're starting in the dating area right now.
Well, I do feel like this is a thing. I think you're onto something. And like I'm this big on innovation in general. So like my mind's already working like, man, this could be more than just your typical swipe thing. Like you have something here. So I definitely see you going there, man. Like I can. Like and you have the right mind about it. So I really do hope you get there. If there's any way I can help, man, I'm all about helping. But I can really see this being so much more than a typical click a button, find someone. Because we all do need help on how to manage. Like no one everyone talks about getting to the marriage and getting to the girlfriend or boyfriend. Yeah. But managing it is a whole nother different thing. Like you gotta stay in a relationship. So I really see you all being the force for that.
Like, I appreciate that. Yeah.
So how can someone reach out, support you? Where can we find this app?
Yeah, so Icebreaker. So it's just iOS right now. I know Android people, you get pissed off at me. I'm an Android person myself, so I can't even use my own app. But it's iOS right now. It's live in Boston and Rhode Island. And so you just look on the App Store. It's Icebreaker BRKR. So if you find like it's spelled the right way, like you're going to find something different. So Icebrkr, or you can find us on our website, icebr.kr. And download it, check it out. Also, I do want to make a note. Right now, most of our members are women. So dudes,
throw it out there.
Please get on there. Seriously. But yeah, so download it. Let me know.
Cool. Well, this has been fun, man. I really enjoy this. This is a really good time. And awesome. I hope you, it'd be nice to see where this grows to. This is super, I think it's super ingenious, but also like, especially now more than ever, man, people just can't manage their stress. Yeah, like, you know what I mean? Especially in a relationship aspect. So I feel like this could be a pioneer for that. So Mark, best of luck. Yeah, we definitely got to come back like 6 months. We got to touch base on this.
Yeah, absolutely. I'd love to. Round 2.
Yeah, let's do it. So to everyone else, moonlightersclub.com, you can find all of our content. We're on most podcast networks, if not all of them, Spotify, iOS, you name it, the Moonlighters Club. And we thank you for joining us again. We hope you enjoyed it, and we'll have plenty more coming through. Thanks.